Guys, how do you feel about girls making the first move? My best relationships have started when a woman was upfront about what she wanted and worked with me to make it happen quickly. Initiative is attractive. A guy wants to feel desired. If a guy thinks he has to earn his way into your heart, he'll start viewing it as a game he needs to win, which can be stressful and rarely leads to anything enjoyable. He'll begin overthinking and trying to eliminate traits he believes are unappealing to women, which is self-destructive and dishonest toward both himself and you. On the flip side, my most frustrating near relationships have been stuck in a pattern. 1. I suggest hanging out. 2. She agrees. 3. I start planning, and then 4. Oh, that won't work for me, I have plans this weekend, with no further effort on her part to make it happen. Once or twice is understandable, but after this happens repeatedly, I start to feel like she's just being nice but not actually interested. That makes me question what she really wants from me, which can create negativity if I'm not careful. So yes, ladies, if you're interested in a guy, don't wait for him to take the lead. Take charge and do what it takes to get what you want. Story 2. I made the first move with my boyfriend, and I'm really glad I did. The first attempt didn't go exactly as planned, though. We were watching a movie on his couch, and he was under a blanket. I mentioned that I was really cold too, and he immediately jumped up to get me a blanket of my own. Keep in mind, this was a 14-hour first date. So, I decided to take a chance and gave him a kiss. Later, he told me he wasn't sure what I was looking for and played it safe, just in case I didn't feel that way and we could stay friends. My advice? Don't just kiss anyone, but feel the situation out. Guys are insecure too, and sometimes they need a little reassurance. Story 3. For me, I know to follow her lead. For example, if a woman makes the first move, I would mirror it. If she starts with a joke, I'd respond with humor. If she leads with a compliment, I'd highlight something about her in return. I'd then gauge the right moment, but quickly, to escalate things while keeping it respectful. Essentially, her initial move is the green light for me to show I can reciprocate, and it gives me the confidence to take the lead myself. It's about showing I can both give and take in a balanced way. Story 4. I've had a few experiences with women making the first move. The first was with someone I wasn't interested in. I accepted the first date but didn't go for a second. It was a bit awkward, but at the same time, it was encouraging to know that someone was interested enough in me to take initiative, even when it wasn't expected. It gave me a bit more confidence. The second was a friend I hadn't considered dating before she asked, but I was open to giving it a try. We went out a few times, but nothing came of it. The third was with someone I barely knew and hadn't been specifically attracted to, but I was happy to give it a shot when she asked. It turned out there was something there and we dated for a while. Unfortunately, it didn't last forever, but we had a clean breakup and are still friends, and I'm glad it happened. I say go for it. Even if it's awkward and they're not interested, it'll probably still make them feel good about themselves, and you might just end up in a great relationship that wouldn't have happened otherwise. Story 5. I think the guys should always make the first move thing should go away. Not only are men deprived of compliments and attention in general, but now we live in a culture which ostracizes and which hunts men based on pure speculation. A guy can read woman language wrong and think someone is into him and ask her out, make her feel uncomfortable, and now he's labeled a creep and possible predator and he loses his job and friends and trust in family. It's going to get to a point to where women will have to make the first move most of the time due to the fear a man will have in the back of his mind of making a mistake and the consequences that come. Story 6. As a woman, I used to do this all the time when I was single. You'd be surprised at how easy it is, especially since you'll likely be the first girl to approach that guy. I usually keep it simple and a little silly. I'd walk up next to a guy I liked at the bar, order 2 drinks, and say something like, "Oh no, did I get 2? Guess you'll have to drink this one." Boom, instant conversation. And just to clarify, buying a guy a drink doesn't mean you're obligated to sleep with him, just like when a guy buys you a drink. Some might interpret it differently, but honestly, you wouldn't want to be involved with those types anyway, right? Story 7. I was out at a bar with friends, not expecting to meet anyone, just enjoying their company. Then I saw him, a guy who was seriously hot. I wanted to meet him, but I didn't want to lose focus on my friends, so I walked up and said something like, "I'd love to get to know you, but I'm out with friends. Can I text you my number? Maybe we can talk tomorrow." I was proud of myself for being mature about it, looking forward to a sober conversation the next day. But instead of a polite response, he turned into a puppy, following me around and trying to insert himself into our group. It was fine at first, but then he messed up. During a lull in the conversation, he whispered, "Want to get out of here so I can drill your brains out?" I stood up, repeated his words loudly for my friends to hear, took out my phone, and showed him how to block a number. I told him he just messed up, and he laughed and walked away. I genuinely wanted to get to know him and see if something could develop, but his actions proved why women often feel pressured never to make the first move. Story 8. Do it. Make it clear. Literally say, hey, I'm flirting with you because I like you, but I'm not sure if it's mutual, and I don't want things to get too serious too fast. I'm just flirting and want to have fun and share my life with you for a while. Be direct, not figurative. No subtle signals that you think are obvious but aren't. Don't expect him to do all the work or behave in ways that he's been punished for in the past, being labeled creepy or just a friend, then rejected. Here's what I consider friendly, not dating related: smiling at me, laughing at my bad jokes, removing a hair from my shirt, partner dancing closely, adding a heart to my name on coffee, sharing your social media with me, telling me you like or love me, hanging out, flashing me, giving me food, hugging me, any compliment, talking about relationships, romance, or physical intimacy, letting me put medieval cuffs on you at the Ren Fair, casual messaging, joining me for a game or drink, asking how you look in something, sending selfies, a one-night stand or casual fun. Here's what makes me think you want to date me, though I'll still assume it's not serious unless you say it: asking me out on a date, suggesting we turn a fling into a relationship, saying you're single and open to someone applying for the role, giving me a dating application, saying I'm boyfriend material and you want a boyfriend. If you don't mention wanting a boyfriend, I'll assume we're just friends, giving me pizza or beef jerky, leaving your toothbrush at my place. Story 9. In 6th grade, we had tables instead of desks, seating about 6 people. A guy and a girl got together, whispering behind their hands, and then the girl started coming on to me pretty strongly. One day, when I had to leave for my music lesson, I saw her and her friend outside in the corridor drawing. Suddenly, they went quiet, and the girl called out, "Hey Griffin." I looked back, and she blew me a kiss. I was only 11, so I had no idea what to make of it. There might have been more, but later that day, the guy told me that the girl really liked me and that I should ask her out. My bullshit meter went off, so I told him no way. Then she turned around, huffed, and said that she would never go out with me, that it was all just a trick. It was a terrible first impression and left me doubting the signals I got from girls for a long time after that. Story 10. If it were more normalized for girls to make the first move, I think dating as a lesbian would be so much easier. The thing is, girls are often socialized to wait for someone else to take the initiative. Even after realizing they're gay, it takes a lot of courage to break out of that mindset and make the first move themselves. As a result, so much of lesbian dating ends up being mutual pining and second-guessing, with both people assuming the other isn't interested, and it's honestly the worst. Story 11. I met my ex-girlfriend on POF, and within the first 24 hours, she asked for my number, and we chatted for a few hours. By the end of day 2, she asked me out. This was right at the start of COVID. We met at a bar known for its craft beers and giant nacho portions. Outside, after we introduced ourselves, she pulled my mask down and kissed me, then led me inside. She had a pint of Guinness, a hoppy IPA, and a shot of tequila. Definitely my kind of girl. She ate half of the massive nacho portion too. At the end of the date, I walked her to her car, and as I was about to leave, she grabbed my butt. Within the first week, she initiated to get physical. By the end of the second week, she told me she loved me while we were doing the devil's tango, and I said it too. We dated for just under 4 months. It was intense and romantic. But she ended it over text, blocked me on all social media, and made all the first and last moves. Story 12. As a woman who's consistently been the one making the first move, let me just say, a little reciprocation would be really nice. I'll ask you out, plan dates, initiate the first kiss. I'll do it all because I know what I want. But seriously, give me a break and take the lead once in a while. Yes, I know men appreciate women who make the first move. I know men enjoy receiving compliments. But guess what? So do women. That should be obvious, but it feels like some of you don't get it. Women are stepping up and taking initiative despite being raised in a culture that, for generations, has taught us to be passive, meek, and non-confrontational. Overcoming centuries of patriarchal conditioning, not to mention my own insecurities and fear of rejection, hasn't been easy. If I can do it, so can you. At the end of the day, I only have so much energy to give before I'm ready to walk away. So maybe text me first, or at least text back in a reasonable amount of time. Suggest the next date instead of leaving all the planning to me. Show me you're as invested as I am, because honestly, I'm exhausted. Story 13. My boyfriend has told me multiple times that he loves it when I initiate affection. When it comes to kissing or hugging, I have no problem with that. But as a woman, I've been conditioned my whole life to believe that guys are the ones who make the first move when it comes to anything beyond that. Because of this, I'm absolutely terrible at initiating physical intimacy. I just end up fumbling over myself. So, to the men out there, yes, we know you like it when women take the lead or make the first move. But those deeply ingrained gender roles, which are only now starting to be challenged, can make us just as awkward and unsure as you might be. Story 14. My girlfriend made the first move, at least if confessing her feelings counts. Honestly, we wouldn't be together if she hadn't. It was an amazing feeling, even though I was a bit confused at first. If you're thinking about confessing your feelings, just go for it. But make sure your intentions are crystal clear. Don't leave any room for doubt. If you've had past miscommunications with him, it could make him second-guess things for months before he fully trusts it. As for normal flirting and casual advances, absolutely, go for it. No need to overthink it. Story 15. There's absolutely no reason this should be considered taboo. One time, a girl who was a longtime friend, no romance involved, completely ghosted me after I said I thought girls should be able to make the first move. She got upset and started saying things like, "So you think girls should drive guys to dates and pay for them?" Which I never said. If a girl likes a guy and he's not making a move, there's nothing wrong with stepping up and saying something. Chances are, he'll consider it if he's not already involved with someone else. He might just assume he doesn't have a shot, thinking he's stuck in the friend zone or something. I firmly believe that if someone likes someone else, they should feel free to express it, regardless of gender. If you're ready to take the next step, there shouldn't be any outdated rules about who's supposed to bring it up. Story 16. I've only been in 2 relationships, including the one I'm in now, and in both cases, the ladies made the first move. I'm just not great at picking up signals. For example, I went on a few dates with one girl who kept talking about Netflix shows, and apparently, that was her way of hinting she wanted to Netflix and chill. I didn't catch on, and she eventually got bored and moved on. I've also had female friends cut off all contact the moment I mentioned being interested in someone else. Only then did I start piecing together the clues they'd been dropping during our friendship. It's honestly such a relief when someone is upfront about their feelings. I'm not into the guessing games. Just tell me straight. It makes things so much easier. Story 17. I'm a 54-year-old man, and I once saw a woman who was crazy about a guy but couldn't muster the courage to approach him. She ended up settling for the next guy who gave her attention, and she was unhappy for years. In her late 40s, after a divorce, she ran into that same guy again, confessed her feelings, and they immediately got together. They've been inseparable ever since, both saying they wasted so much time. This shouldn't be a thing anymore. Ladies, just go for it and speak up. Story 18. Just stop with the mind games. So, in university, I was flirting with a girl I thought was cute. Finally worked up the courage to ask her to come over for a movie, since my parents wouldn't be home. She said yes. Awesome. We were chatting about the date, talking about me getting Snapchat, and she mentioned wanting to show me her fishnets. I was trying to be a gentleman, not rushing things. I drive 30 to 40 minutes to pick her up. Then, I get a text, "This is just as friends, right?" I was like, seriously? I told her I was hoping for more, but sure, we just hang out. Fine, whatever. The whole night she's being flirtatious and cute with me. I drive her home, and 2 minutes after I'm on the road, I get another text. "I wish you would have just kissed me tonight." Story 19. There's a portion of the male population, however small, that will never make the first move, no matter the circumstances. If you, as a woman, happen to like a guy in this group, you're out of luck unless you take action. No matter how obvious your hints are or how overtly you signal interest, he simply won't act on them. Even if he notices and likes you back, he won't take the opportunity. In situations like this, you've got 2 choices. Make the first move yourself or move on and find someone else. Story 20. Fear of rejection has always been there for me, but I also absorbed a lot of hesitation due to the potential for harassment. I've always been careful, respectful at work, and I make sure to walk past women on the street without leering or saying things like, "Smile, honey," or "darlin'," to cashiers. I would never dream of catcalling or trying to date a coworker or, heaven forbid, a subordinate. But in trying to be so respectful, I overcorrected. I became afraid that any interest I showed in a woman would be perceived as forcing unwanted advances, regardless of the circumstances. I was already nervous around women, and the fear of violating boundaries became overwhelming. I imagined not just rejection, but the possibility of my intentions coming across as inappropriate, leaving the woman to deal with the discomfort of my presence and the weight of those dirty intentions lingering. Eventually, I felt guilty even looking at a woman, like I was assaulting her just by showing interest. With so much written about the male gaze, can you blame me? This paranoia turned me inward. I never took initiative, missed romantic opportunities, and confused women who wondered why I wasn't giving any signs of interest. I ended up in bad relationships with women who pursued me, but it turns out I'm not a great match for extroverts, so it never worked out. Looking back, I feel like I wasted a decade in this cycle. When online dating came around, I was thrilled because it gave me a chance to connect with women who had at least expressed some openness to advances. If they rejected me, it was just about me, not about violating any boundaries. After years of awkwardness around women, I appreciated the ability to start a conversation online. Eventually, I met my wife this way. A lot of this was my own issue, but it's also a product of the time I grew up in. I was coming of age right as society started becoming more aware of harassment and began rejecting it. Someday, I hope sexism and harassment will be mostly eliminated so we don't have to keep sending the men are predators signals so loudly. I'm not saying that reasonable feminists are out there accusing men of this, but as a young man, when you see figures like Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump, Al Franken, and Aziz Ansari, it can be hard to know where the line is. It can create a fear of approaching women, thinking that any misstep could make you seem like a predator. As time goes on, I hope women will feel just as comfortable taking the initiative as men do, so no one ends up in a situation where they've given all the right signals but still have to move on because the guy will never act. Men are constantly told not to misread signals. Don't think every woman who smiles at you is into you. How is a young guy supposed to navigate all of this? But once a woman has made her interest clear, it changes everything. Not only does it give you the green light to engage, but it also means the likelihood of rejection drops significantly. That simple gesture can erase a lifetime of neuroses in an instant. Please do this more often, ladies. Story 21. When I was dating, especially using online dating sites, whenever a girl made the first move, she immediately shot to the top of my list. To me, it showed confidence and a willingness to break away from the whole traditional dating system. Plus, it felt incredible knowing that someone was interested enough in me to start a conversation. Whether it led to a date or not, just the shift in pace and not having to worry about coming off too strong was a huge relief. I always felt kind of awkward trying to hit on a girl. Now that I'm married, it's no surprise that my wife made the first move. And I'm so glad she did. Story 22. I'm a man, and every woman I've been with has taken the initiative, and I had no issue with that at all. When I first started pursuing girls in middle school, I approached it very formally, asking them out politely and making a big deal out of it. Needless to say, it never worked. My awkward preteen mustache and terrible haircut probably didn't help either. In high school, I stopped stressing about it and focused on taking care of myself. I got a decent haircut, shaved off the dumb mustache, and started working out. Since then, I've never had to put in much effort. My experience has shown me that plenty of women are willing to make the first move. I even ended up marrying one of them, and we've been together for 14 years. Guess I'm getting old. Story 23. I've done it a few times, and the guys were always happy about it. I try to treat others the way I'd want to be treated, by not being pushy or making them feel uncomfortable. When I approach a guy, I simply start a conversation, and if he seems interested, I'll give him my number and let him know he can reach out if he feels like it. I usually don't ask for their number because I don't want them to feel obligated to give it to me just to avoid rejecting me. I prefer to let them decide for themselves if they're interested and want to text me. So far, it's worked out well. I've always gotten a text. I like this approach because I don't want to force anyone to talk to me. I've been in their shoes, and I know how hard it can be to reject someone, especially in public. Story 24. I'm 100% happy with it. I'm really into communalism and Apoism as political philosophies, and the guy who came up with Apoism, Abdullah Öcalan, has a pretty radical perspective on feminism. He argues that women were the first group to be enslaved as patriarchy took hold, and for any revolution to succeed, women must be the first to be liberated. He believes that women have been commodified as pleasure objects, and it's essential for men to simply stop this behavior. His advice is clear: don't objectify women, don't harass them, don't catcall, and don't force arranged marriages, which are still common in the Middle East. Just leave them alone. He emphasizes that if a woman likes you and wants to make the first move, she can. But above all, men must see women as human beings and as fellow comrades. Story 25. As a woman who works late day and night shifts, I'm often out late, and a few times I've had men ask me out. I've encountered jerks, nice guys, and also genuinely good men who respected my response when I said I wasn't interested or that I already have someone in my life. Honestly, I don't blame them for asking. When you find someone attractive at a bus stop late at night with no guarantee of ever seeing them again, the chances of the other person making a move are slim, so why not ask? I'd probably do the same if I were in their position and had the courage. Actually, it would feel a lot less creepy if I, as a 5 feet 2 inches woman, approached a guy or another girl to start a conversation. I admit, I do feel tense when a man talks to me at 10 p.m., but that's beside the point. I think it's completely fine to express interest in someone, no matter your or their gender, as long as you respect their response. If it's not okay for a guy to send unsolicited explicit messages, it's equally not okay for a woman to flash her body to arouse a man who has already said he's not interested. Story 26. Both of my long-term relationships started with me making the first move. It's definitely nerve-wracking at first, but once it's done, it feels completely normal. In fact, there's always been a conversation afterward where they appreciated the gesture. Honestly, I've often thought, well, if he's not going to make the move, I guess I will. I don't like that I've kind of been conditioned to expect certain things in relationships. For example, I'm a little uncomfortable when guys insist on paying. And many girls I know seem resentful if a guy doesn't pay or doesn't text first. In my current relationship, we just split the bill. I'm used to paying for myself and doing my own thing, so why should that change just because I'm in a relationship? Story 27. It always frustrated me when women complained about never meeting any good guys, yet never made the first move. If you only settle for what comes to you, then don't complain about not getting anything better. And ladies, those subtle signals? Yeah, we men are a bit dense, and we're not going to pick up on them until it's too late, if at all. If you think, nah, that's too obvious, it's probably just right. Edit. For people who might miss my point, it's not that I don't want to approach women, I've done my fair share. What I'm saying is there are reasons why signals often go over our heads. In those situations, it would be nice if the girl actually took the initiative. Otherwise, it's a missed opportunity. Every guy isn't out there actively hunting for a date. He could just be hanging out with friends, focused on someone else, or, yes, maybe he's just not picking up on your signals. And let's be honest, guys who hit on every girl they see are usually seen as creepy, right? If there's good chemistry with that girl tossing signals his way, it's a shame for that potential to go unexplored just because she didn't speak up. Story 28. I think many women use subtle signals and games to test for empathy, but the type of empathy they're looking for often isn't the kind they're actually testing for. Cognitive empathy is the concern for others as human beings, understanding what they think and feel. Affective empathy is the ability to grasp someone's internal states, like their emotions, motivations, and attitudes. Women are naturally skilled at empathizing, often merging these two types into a single concept. Knowing is caring, and caring is knowing. Men, on the other hand, often struggle with empathy, especially affective empathy. They tend to excel more at systematizing and rule-based thinking. So, if they are good at one type of empathy, it doesn't necessarily mean they understand the other well. This distinction can be seen in the difference between geeks and sociopaths. Geeks may struggle to pick up on others' feelings and internal states, but they tend to be deeply humane, with genuine concern for others. However, their care often comes across as awkward or clumsy because they can't easily read social cues or sync up with others emotionally. Sociopaths, on the other hand, are typically skilled at recognizing others' emotions and motivations and can navigate social dynamics with charm, but their awareness is usually directed toward manipulating others for their own gain, as they lack genuine care for others as individuals. Thus, when women test empathy in subtle ways, they are more likely to dismiss well-meaning but socially unaware geeks, while unknowingly rewarding sociopaths who are adept at using empathy for manipulation. Story 29. I'm a woman, and I recently asked a guy out by text. He's a former uni friend. He wasn't interested, but he appreciated my honesty, and I really appreciated his straightforward response. Overall, it was a nice interaction. I was super nervous, especially with my social anxiety, but I figured at least he got a nice compliment. That's just my experience, but in general, I think women should go for it. Asking someone out takes courage, and the burden of making the first move shouldn't fall on men alone. Story 30. In my early 20s, this wasn't my experience, nor the experience of other women I knew. I remember a girl who asked a guy out, and his response was hanging a headless fish from the top of her doorway. Most of the time, it was just guys acting like their manhood was taken away or getting insulted that someone they thought was less attractive didn't ask them out. The only time it was positive was later in life, when I met my now husband. I was pretty forward with him, and he liked that I was straightforward and didn't play games. All in all, I think it really depends on the guy and how he feels about the girl making the first move. Story 31. Most of my life, women have made the first move, largely because I'm a mix of shy and oblivious. Let me share a story from high school prom to illustrate. One day, a girl I was friends with and I were hanging out, though in hindsight I realized she wasn't just hanging out by accident. I was completely clueless. She asked, "What are you doing for prom?" At that point, I was more excited about two rock concerts I had tickets for, one on Thursday and one on Sunday, both happening the same week as prom. I rambled on about how cool it was to see two concerts in such a short time. She responded, "Prom is on Saturday, so you could still go, right?" I hadn't even considered it, but she kept pressing and eventually, I agreed I could go. Then she asked if I wanted to go with her. I was stunned and didn't get it at first. I thought she was way out of my league and had already been asked by some other guy. I'd never thought to ask her myself. All the signs were there. She liked hanging out with me, calling me for rides, and just spending time together, but I never put the pieces together. Even today, I'm still bumbling along until someone hits me over the head with it. Story 32. A few months ago, the sister of a mutual friend asked if I'd be interested in taking intro swing classes with her because she wanted a dance partner, and we both shared a love for dancing. We talked it through on Facebook, made a plan, and met up at a venue where we had a great time dancing, chatting, and meeting a few nice swingers. No, not that kind of swingers. Later, we made plans to take salsa classes together. The venue was far, and I had work the next day, but I decided to go because I liked her. When I found out the classes wouldn't start until 11, I knew I couldn't stay out that late, so I had to cut the night short. She seemed a little disappointed, but we sat at the bar for a while and talked to make the most of it, and then I walked her to her car. As we were saying goodnight by our cars, she suddenly kissed me, which caught me off guard since I had been planning to do the same. After a brief pause, she looked at me and said, "Yeah, well, at least now you know I like you," and I was just taken aback by how bold she was. It was definitely one of the sexiest things a woman has ever done to me. Story 33. As an attractive woman who's never had a problem being open about my feelings toward a guy, I can tell you that not all guys handle it well. In fact, many have been so intimidated that I've been dumped frequently. One guy even questioned his sexuality when he broke up with me because he couldn't figure out what his issue was. I'm not a creep, I just grew up being told things like, "You're gorgeous, guys will always want you, and guys don't usually pick up on hints, so you need to be obvious," or even "You're too pretty, so you have to make it clear or else guys will think you're out of their league." It was mostly a result of their youth, but I can tell you that a lot of guys expect women to be demure and aloof. Now, I'm with a great man who was very innocent when we met. Unlike others, he didn't interpret my openness as being forward or too much. We've been happily and madly in love for 3 years now, fully committed and monogamous. Most people I meet think I'm a sweet girl. I've never given off that skank vibe. Story 34. So, surveys have been repeatedly done showing that the majority of people who are attracted to women like being approached by women. So first off, you're more likely to get people saying yes. Why is this? Well, I can't speak for others, but for me, I'm a guy, it's a few things. 1. Being approached means that they find you attractive in some way, it's a compliment, and I get very few of those. 2. Being approached means that you aren't invading their space, their time, their life. They are inviting you into the interaction. 3. To many, especially myself, the idea of approaching someone for romantic purposes is harrowing. To have someone else approach first and basically say, "It's alright, I don't think you're creepy," makes that not as bad. Now, let's look at Reddit. Here you have a site with a diverse demographic, but its majority of users are still young, white males who tend to use the internet more than average and are self-described as awkward. Reddit has the perfect user base for the majority of people responding and voting to want women to make the first move. This is like asking, do you think turn signals should be used more? Do you think there should be driver's tests when you get old? Or, do you think Facebook is bad? On Reddit. There's already a well-known groupthink where I know what the majority of the answers are going to be. It's been asked so many times before and there's already a culture where the answer is obvious. In real life, not on the small subset of the world that is Reddit, do people like when women make the first move? In the US, for guys mostly, there's still a lot of traditional mindsets that say men need to be the pursuers, but overall our culture has tilted towards more equal expectations of who engages first. I can't speak to other cultures. But all that being said, it's not a vast majority. It's a slim majority. If you simply took the word of Reddit, you'd think that almost all people wanted women to make the first move, and were just not representative of the population as a whole. Story 35. I'm pretty indifferent to this either way. There are plenty of passive guys who wish society didn't expect them to always take the lead, just as there are active girls who wish they weren't expected to hang back and wait to be pursued. Sure, some passive guys would love it if active girls took the initiative and asked them out. But there are also plenty of guys who enjoy being the hunter and plenty of women who prefer the dynamic of being pursued. Honestly, every style of courting should be accepted and welcomed. What I can't stand is hearing incels complain that passive women are spoiled for having standards, or nice girls acting entitled to being chased by guys en masse. The only reasonable approach is to accept that people have different preferences and behaviors. There's no one-size-fits-all method for how dating and relationships should work. Story 36. I'm gonna be that guy for a moment. A lot of guys who say they wish girls would make the first move are imagining some ideal scenario. A cute girl they're crushing on shyly approaching them at the mall and nervously asking for their number. But in reality, this would often play out very differently. More commonly, it'd be girls they're not attracted to, girls who come across as overly aggressive, or girls with awkward timing interrupting them during inconvenient moments. It could even mean close friends, friends they've never thought about romantically, suddenly wanting to move beyond friendship. And let's be honest, that can get really uncomfortable. We've all had that one friend where, despite how much you care about them platonically, something just isn't there romantically. For the guys out there who don't get much attention from women, I get it, you're probably thinking, this guy's clueless. I'd love for any girl to make the first move. But trust me, it's not that simple. Turning down a close friend changes the dynamic, and it's rarely for the better. Edit. To be clear, I'm not saying girls shouldn't make the first move or trying to impose any kind of social rule. Girls should absolutely feel free to take the lead. My point is more about the way guys casually wish for this without understanding what it might mean in real life. If you're a girl and a guy is clearly giving you signs that he's interested, go for it. Make the move. Just know that, like with anything, the reality is rarely as simple or ideal as we imagine. Story 37. Unpopular opinion. Most guys would love for a girl they're attracted to make the first move. However, that doesn't mean guys are attracted to every girl who might approach them, far from it. When guys say yes or absolutely to this idea, they're usually imagining their crush or someone they find appealing making the first move. In reality, it's more likely to be someone they don't feel a connection with or aren't interested in. Girls absolutely should feel just as comfortable making the first move as guys do, and the world would be better if everyone felt freer to express interest. But the flip side is that this would lead to plenty of rejection, girls getting turned down and guys being approached by people they're not into. If it became common for girls to initiate, guys would probably react similarly to how girls do now. Flattered but uninterested most of the time, excited occasionally, and occasionally uncomfortable if the approach crosses certain boundaries. Story 38. I have a dream that one day women will feel comfortable making the first move. No games, just clear signals that they're interested. I dream of a time when women will choose the guy they like and skip all the confusing hints, simply telling him that they appreciate and like him, without beating around the bush. I dream of a future where men and women can flirt freely at a bar, and the woman, not because the guy isn't manly, but because she's genuinely into him, will wrap her arm around him to show it. I have a dream that one day, men will have the same opportunity to make the first move, just as much as women do. I have a dream that the future will be a place where both genders are at peace, where neither is expected to follow outdated rules about who should make the first move. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.